Tonight at 10, the biggest train strike in decades will start tomorrow after the latest talks hit the buffers. The government says the action will cause misery for millions, but the unions insist that pay and jobs must be protected.
Faced with such an aggressive agenda of cuts to jobs, conditions, pay and pensions, the RMT has no choice but to defend our members industrially and to stop this race to the bottom.
There'll be 3 full days of strike action this week. Network Rail says reform is needed to bring benefits in future.
If we're able to bring those modern practices into the way we do and run the railway, that could save hundreds of millions of pounds, and that could be transferred into savings and a better pay offer we could put on the table.
Services across England, Scotland and Wales are already running on a much reduced timetable tonight. Also on the programme, an apology from Oldham Council and Greater Manchester Police after a report concludes they failed to protect some children from sexual exploitation. The mountain gorillas of Central Africa are thriving again, having once faced extinction. We look at this triumph of conservation. And the story behind the 27-year-old golfer from Sheffield who became the US Open champion.
And coming up on the BBC News Channel, Serena Williams makes her return to tennis tomorrow at Eastbourne as she steps up her preparations for Wimbledon after a year out.
Welcome to BBC News at 10. The biggest train strike in 30 years will go ahead this week, following the breakdown of the latest talks between unions and railway leaders. Services across England, Scotland and Wales are already running on a much reduced timetable this evening, ahead of the full strike action tomorrow. Now, the industrial action takes place on 3 days. That's tomorrow and then Thursday and then 2 days later on the Saturday. There will be some services running, but Network Rail says passengers should only travel by train if necessary. Now, the extent of the likely disruption is shown by this official map. The red lines show where the limited services will be operating. As you can see, much of Scotland, Wales, some of the West Country and the Southwest, no services at all. The dispute between the Rail, Maritime and Transport Workers Union and the companies which run British Railways is centred on pay and job losses and changes to workers' terms and conditions. Now, the RMT says it is prepared to take industrial action for as long as it takes to get a settlement, and it warned that strikes could be taking place for months to come. Our first report this evening is from our transport correspondent, Katie Austin.